This episode was originally a live conversation recorded at the Founders Tap in October 2023.
I care deeply about my people, my investors, and everybody that trusted that I can do the job. So that's it. Otherwise, you say very easily bye, because my personal risk, I think that it is very, very low.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Swisspreneur Show, a podcast about startup stories and learnings from experienced entrepreneurs. If you enjoy listening to our show, make sure to follow the podcast and leave a rating. And now, here's your host, Ansuya.
Thank you, Danny, for being here. I'm really excited to have this conversation and also hear what questions come up later. That's interesting for me. So Danny is the founder and CEO at Roar20. He has a PhD in computational fluid dynamics, mechanical engineer from ETH, has worked as a senior quant analyst in finance as well for companies insurance like Swissery. So Roar20 is a company that's developing the next generation of models, providing highly accurate flood hazard information at a significantly lower cost. So just to get an idea of what that means, the model you've built is over 100,000 times faster than traditional science-based computational fluid dynamic models. To me, that number, it just sounds like, whoa, really big.
That is true. And actually, the aspiration is that the larger the calculations, the larger the acceleration, because our code is scaling practically linearly while the problem scales exponentially. So actually, if we try to solve a problem in the size of a canton, this number will be in the millions.
Wow. I'm looking forward to that.
Me too, actually.
All right. So, you specialize in risk assessment, but 6 years ago, you took a risky decision to start your own startup. So how did you go about that? If you can tell us a bit about making that decision.
Being incorporated for some time, I became quite arrogant because some things came a bit easy in the roles that I had. So I had the idea that I can build a company, or I know how to build a company, which was totally wrong. I didn't. But I'm, as a person, I have a very high risk-taking attitude. So I'm not afraid to put, let's say, everything I have for what I think it is right. So a lot of people are saying that you need to have the right idea, or to have the right mindset, or to be smart in order to start a company. I would say you need to have the right stomach for that. So it's a different organ.
Well, that will bring us to our topic for today, which is breaking the golden cage, leaving corporate comfort for a startup, right? So you just want to hear a bit more about, how your experience went. Let's go back to that interview we referred to also earlier from Inside It, where you said there is far too little drive for innovation in corporations. So what are the obstacles to innovation that you've witnessed in this world?
So actually, I don't think that the people that are working for large corporations are not capable for innovation. The contrary, I met extremely smart people with good ideas. But when you have a company, you have a business model, you have some objectives, and groundbreaking innovation, it doesn't feel right. I mean, you need to be able to justify why you are doing that. So I think that building innovation, deep innovation outside of the big corporates is the right way to go. But then saying that when you reach a certain point, scaling the output of this innovation is again corporate's the place to do that.
Yeah. I mean, let's first talk about, when you said that people who are in these companies, so you yourself was also in this company and you had all of these ideas. Do you feel like, there are companies that also spin off from corporations as well. Did you feel like your hands were a bit tied? You wanted to do more, but you couldn't. Was that ever something that came across?
No, actually, you can do.
Yeah.
But as I said before, the metrics are totally different. It's like, is it relevant to what we're doing? Why is it relevant? How relevant it is? Why should I have this investment? All that play a role. A lot of the ideas that people are having have to be tested from the market first in order to make sense for big corporates. So in a sense, my hands were tied, but for a good reason.
Right.
It's like otherwise the companies will.
The focus was basically on their business model and what they need to achieve, rather than, branching out into other sort of innovative ideas or so.
To have a vehicle that you can spin out companies, it is a valid strategy.
Yeah,
but
makes sense.
To try to create sub-teams within this corporate environment and name them like a startup within the company, it might work. I haven't seen it working up to now with a great success. Again, because the big companies should not take risks that are irrelevant to their business.
I understand a bit what you're saying, since I also worked for a big company before, for Amazon. I wanted to know a bit more in your experience, how have you seen this impacting innovative people in these companies that you work with? Do you feel like it impacts how they think and what they want to do as well?
In the end, if you are innovative and you want to build something and you go and take a role within a corporate that is having a specific list of tasks, then you took the wrong choice.
Right.
Actually, look somewhere else.
Yeah.
Or they have some innovation departments, the companies, but again, the innovation should be justified by what is the strategic target of the company.
So, with the model that you created, you were also doing something similar at Swissery, for example, right? Or is it totally different from what you did then? And how does it now work with you competing with then such big companies? Or is that not a question with what you do?
We are not competing. We are trying to sell to them what we built. I wasn't working for the NatCat team, natural catastrophe team of Swissery. I was in an innovation team. Just when the idea came by saying what models the industry was using, I was 100% sure that it would have been impossible to convince for a 4 or 5 years effort for an not secured outcome the business to invest in me and the team around me. So and it makes sense, because then everybody has an idea and say, give me money to do it. I'm like, the company will be belly up. It will go belly up very, very fast.
Do you think that people who have this kind of innovative spirit should then just go and start their own startup?
Definitely, that's why I did it. But again, being innovative is mostly a personality issue and not having idea. I know if we talk to the people here in the room, all of them have at least one or if more very, very, very good ideas.
Right.
Do you have the endurance and the stomach to go forward and build that and take what it takes? In my case, I knew that I have quite good endurance in pain, but at the same time, I was thinking that I knew everything, which is yeah, I was liking the thrill, and I was willing to take the risk. Also, not having a family to support, that's also helping. Um, and the learning curve is amazing. So a lot of things to gain out of that, but a lot of things to lose, like your sleep, for example. Yeah.
I mean, so you told me, and this is where it starts to get interesting, right? That you actually started the company pretty late in terms of your, like, in your 40s, right? So you did like sort of work in the corporate field for that long in that sense. And you also mentioned that you don't come from a very wealthy family. You didn't equate wealth to happiness. So how did you kind of like take this startup plunge? Like, what was sort of the motivating factors, and what did you weigh against?
Actually, let's start from that point.
Yeah.
Because I'm coming from a working class family in Greece. Didn't have money, but I realized it only when I was 16, meaning that I wasn't missing anything, and I was in a happy environment, very nice life. So somehow this register in my head that money equal happiness, no, is not true. So that helps you when you take a decision that has also financial impact. So made it much easier to take that decision. Sorry, I missed the second part of the question. Was
so what kind of like challenges did you have to face to go up against this? Because I mean, yeah,
exactly. So the financial part and the security wasn't ever very high in my priority list. So, and as generous as might be with my own money or wealth or whatever, that frugal I am with the money of the company now, which is a very different story. But
I guess you have to be you
have to be if you want to survive. No, actually, when I was leaving Swiss Re, which was my last employer, I was more thrilled of the I had the excitement. I'm going to learn something. I'm going to try to build something that my brain generated. I will be part of those people that try to build something from scratch.
So coming back to that, like, how did your brain generate this idea? So you've been working then, for quite a long time at Swiss Re. I mean, you've also been working for different companies up until this point. So one is like, how did that idea came in? And then how did you decide that you can't do this at Swiss Re? I mean, you kind of answered that also before, that now is the right time to like go ahead and start my own company.
Yeah, so it was a combination of factors. So first, my background in fluid dynamics, which I studied all my life and I never used in my professional life.
Yeah.
But that equipped me with some knowledge about the physics that are governing floods. Then seeing the models that the insurance industry was using and also governments are using for understanding the risk, and realizing that, okay, I understand why those models are so simplified from the scientific point of view, but I was terrified by the idea that there were business decisions were taken with that information. And then that was the initial thought. And then my co-founder now was at the time in MIT. And I called him, also Greek. He was like, for him was midday, for me was evening. I said, can we do that and be also very fast and very cheap? And he's like, it is quite late there. Are you drunk? What is the problem with you? You know that this is not possible. But that triggered the discussion that slowly we heard some ideas about AI being able to learn physics, which still there's no academic proof of that. And then I was, let's say, risky enough to say, okay, go for it. If we build that, that will be the coolest thing ever. So then I took my pension fund, my savings, and I left Swiss Re, and I started the company. Not immediately, about 2 years later.
I mean, that's also like rare, right? Like people wouldn't like take their pension fund out as the first step. Maybe they would try to raise a bit. Did you do a risk assessment as well, being a risk analyst when you started this?
The risk assessment had a very simple fallback plan, which is like, okay, I have rather good educational background. I have more than 10 years of corporate experience, being in the end a middle manager in the company.
Right.
Now I will learn also how to build a company. Even if we fail, it will not be very difficult to go back to the big corporation lifestyle. Now, saying that was a backup plan, but returning to big corporate after this experience would be extremely difficult for me. I'm not saying that it would be impossible, but
once you get the taste of freedom, it's
not that much freedom. It's more adrenaline, It's like you're doing extreme sports, So it's you live, and next day you might be dead. But I mean, because the startup might be dead very, very easily. I mean, in our lifetime of Rare, in 4 years, four times we had 1 week liquidity, and 4 times we managed to escape death.
That is also, I think, like one thing that I find like in common with a lot of the founders I speak to, that they have like such a high resilience in them, which I feel like a lot of people like you don't find it that easily. And I think that's one of the key things also to just go and be a startup founder. Like, do you think that is important? I mean, not just having a great idea or being super smart.
The super smart might be very, very secondary, to be honest.
Yeah.
It is part of the resilience that I said. And I personally think that, I mean, I'm doing sports since I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I was doing sports quite seriously, and I keep on doing sports up to now. And you're learning to endure pain. When you're doing high intensity, good level sports, you are learning how to endure pain and say, I'm not quitting the race. I'm going to the end. I'm going to beat that guy or that girl. I will be faster or stronger or whatever.
This episode was brought to you by Google Cloud, a partner that needs no introduction. What you might not have heard of, though, is that Google offers a Google for Startups cloud program where they give you access to startup experts, technical training, business support, and cover your Google Cloud costs up to $200,000 for 2 years, or even $350,000 if you're an AI startup. Scale your startup faster and smarter with Google Cloud. Head over to goo.gle/Swisspreneur.
And that's the key ingredient. I'm sure that if I didn't have that background, the company wouldn't exist today.
And then, let's paint a picture here. You've taken out money from your pension fund and your savings, and now you've started your own startup. You don't have now anymore a high-paying salary, coming every month into your bank account. Yes, you like adrenaline, you like challenges, but how do you now put food on your plate? Or how did you, it wasn't that extreme.
We are not starving.
Right.
I mean, my partner is sitting over there. We are, we do it every day, we do.
But if she was not there with you to support you, right, when you started, because you mentioned that you were single then?
Yeah, I was single then. And but funny story, we met about the first days that we started working in the company. So actually, she was there from the start.
Okay, so serendipity.
Yeah.
And helped you a lot. Did that help you, or how did you financially plan your life?
So actually, I don't have the Swiss Re salary, but the salary that we are paying as a startup, first of all, it is very democratic. We are very horizontal. Every employee has the same salary, up also to today, and it is enough for you to live. Next week I have to go to Vegas for an insurance conference, and the U2 are playing in the Sphere, and the cheapest ticket is 400. In my Swiss 3 times, that would be a no-brainer. Now I prefer to go a weekend somewhere with my partner with his money. So you have minor adjustments. The most important is like to not get panicked when you're saying your bank account.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
That's because in theory I'm a multimillionaire right now, but
yeah,
that's only theoretical.
But not in practice.
Yeah.
That's also like a lot of people think, oh, you own a company, you're rich, and it's like, no, go check my bank account. It's not the case. So I mean, like, how much time was it till you got your like first revenue coming in?
Interesting question. Because actually our company is deep tech,
right?
So we needed quite a lot of investment, and also we had a second problem, which was like we were coming from the technology solution without having clear what is the product, which is a recipe for failure, actually. And a couple of the 4 times that we almost went bankrupt was because of that. So we luckily found enough investment. So up to now, Rare 20 raised about 3 million Swiss francs. And our first real client, big scale, was the result of last year, Vegas, actually. And we are about to sign the first sizable contract now. Already we have some revenues from them, and we are going into the market quite strongly right now. So the short answer, 3.5 years from inception, but you have to keep in mind that we were working also 2 years before inception.
So, I mean, you mentioned these 4 times that you came close to basically having no money.
I'm scarred. That's why I'm like...
like, what did you do each of those 4 times? I'm curious to know. And what would you do if ROAR 20 failed?
Okay. The first one is like you go into the emergency mode. Of course, you don't start reacting 1 week before bankruptcy. You start reacting some months. The good thing is like we had a very good financial control. We knew very well what is coming towards us and what we are needing. So I was starting quite early, trying to find investors, because I knew that clients for the moment wasn't the right approach. But the last time, for example, I went into I took the plane, went to Vegas. From Vegas, I went to Munich. From Munich, I went to Paris. And in the first one, I found our client. In the second, I found we got close to Lloyd's, and this year we won the Lloyd's European Innovation Award. So we got a lot of traction, and other companies started noticing us. And in Paris, I found our investors. So all in all, you're going into a survival mode, and you're doing everything is possible to try to find the money. Those times were predominantly investment.
Okay. And did you see like any difference in terms of over the years, like that it was easier certain years versus other years? And like, what was the average time it took to close a deal?
Now it was very easy.
Okay.
So the moment that the investors saw clients, recognition, we are getting slowly but surely getting the attention from the press, makes the discussion very easy. Also, our investors are relevant, so they are coming from the industry, from the insurance industry, a lot of them. So actually they're getting the feedback from them. So now it was the first time that, we did a small extension of 500,000 of our last round, and that was failed in like that. The other times always pain.
Yeah.
I mean, and we had also some unfortunate experience. Our first ever person, the first ever person that said, "Okay, I will give you 300,000," signed subscription forms. He didn't have money, so he wanted the attention, and
Wow.
that actually was the reason why we went almost belly up the very first time, because I
Yeah.
thought that I had the money and I didn't.
Yeah.
So and of course you don't start a company on a legal battle. So I
Of
let
course.
him I
You
let
just
him
let
off
it
the hook.
go, yeah.
But yeah, we needed to. Thank God we had a good set of friends that they appreciate our academic pedigree, let's say,
Right.
and invested just for that blindly, because business-wise we were not making sense at the moment. At that moment, yeah.
Right. And with the good deals that happened, like, how quick was it to close it?
So, okay, you have to think that we're bringing a technology that is on the verge of science fiction to the market, and I'm saying that because when we imagine what we want to build, it was science fiction. It didn't exist.
Right.
So it was really, it would be great to do that, you know.
Yeah.
So of course the clients wants to test. So the very first large deal took about a year, but in between they started paying for testing and all that. Now we see that we're trying to build a partnership now with a large Australian insurer, and that will have a development partnership also there, because our technology is not finalized. We need to bring it in production phase, and that goes much faster. So everything becomes faster with time. But you have to deal with the corporate on the other side.
Yeah.
And the mechanisms are conservative on the other side, and rightfully so. You know, if I was working for Swiss Re and someone was coming with Rare 20 solution, I would be, wow, amazing, show me. You know, so and it would take some time. Yes.
So circling back to my previous question, I mean, about like what would you do for R20 fail? Because you mentioned that now you can't go back to a corporate career, right? Even though you have, you know, all the nice things on your CV to get a job easily. So what would you do? Have you ever thought
Probably another company, or go and work for a company that I like
a smaller company or more meaningful to you?
Yeah, I mean, but I would like to see the impact of my contribution.
Yeah.
So, for example, that gentleman over there has a nice concept that I would happily explore to work for them if I was. I mean, but Rare will work. So it's. I'm sorry.
just your plan B, basically. Okay. So, I mean, when you're running your own business, you're much more, you know, the commander of your own destiny than if you're working with somebody else. But this can also put a lot of pressure on people because, you know, you have to like manage all of these things. Yeah. How do you cope with the stress of knowing that much of this like rests in your hands now?
Yeah, I mean, it's responsibility. It's huge responsibility. But I slightly disagree. You're in the mercy of your investors, actually. So you are not independent 100%.
True.
You have at every step to convince that it is right, and you need to give confidence to your investors. I mean, I think that it is only fair that you know what you're doing, and that's why you have your board also, and usually you have already your investors sitting there.
Right.
It is happening to us. Yeah, so the responsibility is actually what is keeping you up in the evening. So I wouldn't be stressed, I wouldn't lose sleep if it was only my own faith.
Yeah.
But I care deeply about my people, my investors, and everybody that trusted that I can do the job. So that's it. Otherwise, you know, you save very easily by, because my personal risk, I think that it is very, very low.
Yeah. You had mentioned to me previously that you still don't feel like an entrepreneur. Why is that? Like, why did you make that statement?
In my head, entrepreneur is not the one who is taking the risk. Entrepreneur is like that is bringing it to the end, because I might have been just a naive guy that took a big risk, convinced other people that I'm right, and produce a huge bubble. How is that entrepreneurship? So for me, it is one. I will consider myself an entrepreneur, either if Reor succeeds, or if it fails, but it fails for reasons that have nothing to do with the core value that we try to create. Sometimes you might be too early for the market. Sometimes a war is happening and you are out of money, which happened actually with a war in Ukraine. That in combination with a crash of the crypto, we had 2 million in investment lined up, and everybody moved out in one night. So those reasons are then. If for such a reason Rare 20 would have failed, I will use that tense, because I don't believe that there is a possible scenario now that we will fail anymore. I would still consider myself an entrepreneur, but otherwise, in other words, I have to prove that I created value.
But I mean, do you feel like you're on that path to success that you envision for your company?
Yeah, I mean, if you asked me that 6 months ago, I would be like, let's see. Now it would be, yeah, a little bit more. Yeah, okay. But I think that we're going closer and closer. Yeah, I mean, towards the end of the year, you can call me again, and I might have a final answer for you.
Okay. I will come again.
Excellent.
All right. So, I mean, just to conclude this chat, and then we can open it up for Q&A. Has the startup ride been worth it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I would do it again and again and again. We had discussions with Christos, my co-founder, when we were really, really deep into the problem. We were like, and after 4 or 5 years trying to figure it out, we were like, okay, if we knew all that, would we have done it again? We were like, when you have the pain, maybe not. But in retrospect, definitely, the learning curve is amazing. I mean, it's exciting every day, and it feels like you have a lot of validation. You get a lot of validation out of that, and if you mess up, it's your fault. You cannot say, oh no, this guy or that guy or whatever. It is either you made it because you are good, or you didn't because you are not. So it's excellent.
Well, I love your spirit, and I wish you the most success, and I definitely want to hear more end of the year how it goes. Thank you so much for your answers, and we would like to then open it up for Q&A to the audience.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, you can support us by rating our show on Apple Podcasts. This way, we can reach an ever-growing number of aspiring entrepreneurs.